Well, hey everybody. On this episode of Sauna Talk, we're able to visit with Dr. Colin Zestcott about a current study underway for the Sauna Research Institute. This is a survey-based study analyzing the mental health benefits of sauna. The link to the study is in the show notes. It is particularly interesting to learn how Colin has a keen experience and understanding of what we know as good sauna. The real sauna with good heat and proper cool downs, which can include a range of coldness, including a lake swim, a cold plunge, snow angels, a bucket of water over one's head. And Colin is reporting from Duluth, Minnesota, where he teaches at the College of St. Scholastica, a place where a high of 1 degree above 0 Fahrenheit is not uncommon. A lot of cool down in Duluth, Minnesota. We learn about the budding tree of scientific research surrounding sauna mental health studies. I'm doing my best to get the word out on this study, as the more participants involved means more sound data to build upon for the study as well as the next phase of research. So I hope you're able to respond to the request for participants for this study. The email address is saunastudy@gmail.com. And I'm super pleased to welcome to this episode of Sauna Talk, Dr. Colin Zestcott. This show is brought to you by the Sauna Research Institute. The Sauna Research Institute is a newly formed 501c3 nonprofit. Its mission is to advance the research and study of hot and cold sauna therapy and practice in order to help people live healthier and happier lives. The Sauna Research Institute is initiating its first study, and it is open right now for participants. It's a survey-based study on the mental health benefits of sauna. So I encourage you to go to saunastudies.com and click on the news section, and you could take part in this research. So here we are. It's it's a cold winter in Minnesota, and we're in the throngs of the depths of winter, you could say. And I'm so pleased to bring on Dr. Zestcott here. Colin, welcome to Sauna Talk.
Awesome, Glenn. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's nice to talk to someone in the warmth of my house right now versus being outside right now. Definitely a little chilly out there right now. So
Right.
happy to chat about warm things for sure.
Right. Well said. What's the temp where you are in Duluth, Minnesota right now?
Yeah, so we're up right on the shores of Lake Superior here in Duluth, and I think today we were maybe going to edge around 1 degree, I think, for a high. So later this afternoon, it's going to be a balmy degree up here Fahrenheit. So
well, we'll celebrate that milestone. I appreciate you coming on board. You and I have known each other for some time, and I thought for listeners, if you wouldn't mind we can begin with what you do, like what you do up there in Duluth, and what got you into your profession and what you do.
Yeah, happily. So I'm an assistant professor of psychology at the College of St. Scholastica in Duluth, Minnesota. So small liberal arts school up here in the Northland. I think I was 12 years old when I wanted to become a psychologist. It was, I think, just some natural interest in talking to other people. I think I had 3 different ideas of what I wanted to do: be a professional NBA basketball player, be a sports analyst, or be a psychologist. I grew to be a 5'7" in height, in feet and inches. So that kind of ruled out the NBA side of it. And naturally, I was just always curious about questions about human behavior, why people think the thoughts that they do, how people can be better at being people. So that kind of drew me to psychology naturally.
Mm.
I got my doctorate in psychology from the University of Arizona back in 2017, and then have been in the kind of academic world teaching and doing research ever since.
Yeah, yeah, and teaching and research, those are two, call it a Venn diagram in an overlap. Do you prefer one or the other, or do you like the A overlap B, the overlap of those two practices?
I'm gonna add a third to that Venn diagram, and I'll hit all three with like service, like other stuff too that I can do, like um, trying to give talks in the community or working with other people on different campus initiatives at the college. But I like a blend of all of it. I think that's what it attracts most people to academia, is the ability to kind of think creatively and independently in the research, share that with students. I'm a big fan of. I just got out of teaching some classes this morning, and I get to talk to students about doing cool studies and hearing their ideas about the world. And that's definitely something that I absolutely love to do. And then the service side, like what is it that I can do with my knowledge to promote either initiatives in the college, community wide, things like that. So
Mhm.
I like all three. I'd be hard pressed to choose one over the
Mm.
other.
And the beauty is you don't have to choose one. They seem to synergize or work with each other.
Ideally they do. Yeah, ideally they do. Although
Mhm.
sometimes, different projects will take initiative. If there's a lot of things happening, like in some research that we're doing, looking at some of the psych benefits of sauna, that's going to take a lot more time, and maybe some other things kind of get moved to the back burner. So it's an ebb and a flow and a shuffle. But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't change it for the world. I love it.
perfect. And for me, anytime a doctor can prioritize sauna and research up their priority level really is attractive to me, um, for many reasons. And so it's so wonderful to hear you say that sauna and research is climbing the ladder on your list of attention and focus. Um, if you we can go at this two ways. I think maybe one would be we could just talk briefly about your history with sauna, your interest in sauna, and then phase two is I'll ask you a little bit about the research project specifically under the Sauna Research Institute. So starting with first, I mean, you live in Minnesota, so sauna, I would guess, is something that you would bump into and bounce into. But tell us your history with sauna or your interest in sauna.
Yeah, I think most of my background comes from family vacations or being at the gym and having some sort of electric, stove working in a room with a big sign telling me not to put water on it. But that's probably the majority of the experience that I had. Always enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed athletics, and kind of viewed sauna as a potential for like biohacking almost. Like, how can I recover and feel better? But it really wasn't until probably, it would have been over a year ago now, um, at the Sauna Village in Minneapolis with my father-in-law. He had gifted me a sauna experience with you and others at the Sauna Village. And I think that was probably the first time that something felt different. And I think it was being in like understanding more about like Finnish sauna practice of a cool down and rounds and water over the rocks and that steam. The term, is it lole is the term for the
Yep,
steam
yep.
in the
Lolu,
rocks?
Lolu, yep.
Lolu, thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah, there was something about that felt different. And I was asking you after that session, you know what like, what do we know about this? And just with my own curiosities about asking questions about humans, when I started to dig in, I learned that there's not as much as I thought that there would be. There's cool work happening in Finland, cool work happening in Japan. And I found that the work in the United States, where I'm based out of, was a little bit lacking. So yeah, I kind of blended, just there was something about this experience, this like energy that I felt afterwards that I wanted to understand more about, that I think a ton of people experience too. When I sauna now here in Duluth with other people that I interact with, they can kind of put their finger on this experience, but maybe it doesn't come to this full like realized idea of what exactly this means, and especially across a ton of different people having this experience.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think I treated sauna initially as something that was just available at hotels. And as I've kind of peeled back the layers of an entire culture of how important this is, especially during times like COVID, like what are just good health practices that we can have to um, sweat things out, feel good, like physically and emotionally.
Right.
I think it really drove some of my interest in figuring out like what might this potentially look like for people and the benefits of it. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, excellent. So 2 points to that is, in summary, you've had sauna in your life, a lot of it being health clubs or the hotel thing, and don't throw water on the rocks. But you were able to experience a deeper, in a literal, in a literal sense and also a figurative sense, a deeper, more intense version of sauna, more authentic version of sauna. And then you had mentioned that, after that, it really felt different. And to put you on the spot, if you were to try to isolate that difference, was it more physical? Was it more mental? Was
mm,
it exactly 50-50? I mean, how would you distill that?
yeah, there's definitely the feeling of like the physical side. Like I after an hour and a half of going through a couple rounds, having the cold water incorporated too, my body felt like it had just gotten a massage, which I had never experienced before, which was a new experience. So there was kind of this actual like embodied experience of something changing. Um, there was also this, like, at least for me, kind of as I started to explore this more, like this cool connection between my body and my mind too. Like I was really hungry. Right? I was like, oh, I'm famished. I need like food to eat. So there was kind of this cool connection that I felt my body having a conversation with itself about like, so let's reward ourselves. What should we eat? And so all of these like really good positive feelings that I had were also still in a more psychological part of it too, of this awesome, relaxing experience mixed
Mm,
with now I'm going to eat something fun too. Like it kind of seemed like it was this continued feeling.
hmm
Um, Even after the actual like physical parts of like, oh, I actually feel relaxed, like my body feels relaxed, my mind also continued to feel relaxed too. So I wouldn't be able to give you an exact number,
Sure.
but certainly certainly both happened for me. And as I've gotten to know more people in the sauna community, that seems to be the cool part, right? It's body and mind that are being affected positively.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And a fellow board member on the Sauna Research Institute, who you've had collaborative exchanges with, Dr. Jari Laukinen, has published the study from 2016, and the physical benefits of sauna have been well reported. I mean, lowering the risk of dementia, Alzheimer's,
Heart
all
disease.
heart disease, all cause mortality,
Yep.
especially related to cardiovascular situations. Yeah, it's been wonderful on that level. The physical benefits of sauna, and a lot of that can be analyzed from a physical sense. But you're undertaking a study and a project focusing on the mental aspect of sauna, the psychological bits to that. Can you share with us a little bit about the study and its format and its objectives, and how you're going about it?
Yeah, happily. So, as you mentioned, Dr. Laukonen's work has been instrumental in our understanding of sauna, um, and specifically, much of what we've been interested in is tapping into. Okay, so we know that there's this physical body experience, but what are people actually reporting? Like, if I feel like, oh, my heart health has improved, what are people actually saying though? What is the lived experience that people can report back to us? So that was kind of the genesis of our idea. Some other work has also looked at the potential psychological benefits of sauna, and not only are we trying to add to that work and just understand this more fully, um, but also maybe take some new directions with it too. So one of the first projects that we've been starting here is kind of a broad survey-based study where we are asking people to reflect on some of their psychological well-being before they started partaking in sauna. So we've kind of targeted looking at folks that maybe have just built a sauna within the past year or so. So kind of around COVID here. And then we're going to track them over a couple different weeks and see if the number of saunas that they take are having a positive effect, but also kind of this pre-post, how did they, if they can think back to the way they felt before to now, if there are some potential changes. So certainly in a survey like this, there's a lot of noise. Everyone has a lot of different experiences. So we're trying to recruit fairly broadly, not just in the US, but internationally as well is part of our goal. But really what we're trying to do is just set the first stage here, kind of the first stone of a whole series of work that we can use to help contribute to the growing body of knowledge that we have. I I just don't think that sauna gets talked enough about in, like, speaking from an American perspective, in American culture. Maybe research is one avenue by which we can enter in that conversation. So that's
Mhm.
certainly just like a very explicit goal in the work
Mhm.
is how can we better have this conversation, and how can this be a part of maybe more common practices
Mhm.
nationwide in America, worldwide, and I think research can be a convincing way to do that. So certainly trying to add to that body of knowledge and set the stage for some future research too.
Mhm. So, as a professional in the space of research and mental health psychology, um, is there science to developing a survey-based study? Is there in within the community? Are there approved methodologies for building a survey? And can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. I tell my students this: there is more than one way to skin a cat. So we can we can approach research from a couple of different angles. But when it comes to asking questions, say about like anxiety or depression or energy and vitality, um, rather than just like making up questions that we think might tap into those things, we're using measures that have been validated and used worldwide in the past. So we're basing what we're actually measuring for psychological well-being on very established measures. So we're not reinventing the wheel when it comes to like,
Mhm.
what do we mean by depression, or what do we mean by anxiety and well-being? So we use established measures, which is usually a good place to start. Another thing that we're extremely aware of too is when we're asking people to reflect on their past experiences. So if we have someone say, hey, before you built your sauna in 2020, how did you feel, depression, anxiety, energy wise? There's also just some inherent difficulties with people accurately thinking about what they did. I can tell you what I had for breakfast today, but 3 months ago, it might be really hard for me to tell you exactly what I ate this morning, or in the morning 3 months ago. So
Mhm.
there are some inherent difficulties with that, just from a design sense.
Mhm.
But at the same time, having people who are like living and breathing out in the world, reporting back their own experiences with saunas that either they've built or they're using a friend or they have access to some sort of sauna, we get a really cool opportunity to get some living, breathing data here on people's day-to-day lives. So we're acknowledging, yeah, that there are some pros and cons to each approach, but being able to ask people these questions and track them over a couple weeks and get some real-time data in addition to folks thinking about things in the past,
Mhm.
we get a cool mosaic of the potential for sauna to benefit people psychologically. So
Right. Excellent. Yes, and the survey was at least phase one of the survey. I remember it. You had developed this even before COVID hit. So we're talking about. I mean, this isn't just some idea that just sort of fell into your lap or the Sauna Research Institute's line of thinking. I mean, the chronology of the basis of this study goes back. What would you say? Almost a year.
probably a year.
Mhm.
And I know initially, pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, we wanted a more experimental approach where we could have people either like take a sauna and then report things versus a group that maybe doesn't take a sauna and is still reporting and seeing if there are any differences, capturing people before a sauna session and then immediately after a sauna session and tracking if there are changes. So when we can actually like be in a setting where we can manipulate how much sauna someone has, Yeah, it makes for a lot cleaner data. And me as an experimental psychologist, that's what I like to do, is manipulate the environments and see what happens.
Hmm.
With COVID, a little hard to manipulate, to actually be hands-on on the ground, how much sauna people are having. So this more like correlational approach where we're just using surveys and tracking people over a time, is one avenue by which we can ask those questions. But as you kind of alluded to with some of the ideas that we had been generating through SRI, is we have a whole host of other ways that we want to think about this and talk about this in more controlled settings that we can have.
Exactly, exactly. And that, if I could get into that, when you and I were collaborating on the sauna bench, in a literal sense, that was
Yep.
the spirit, is the on-site survey work. And I remember you had even mentioned that, about tapping the resources of you have a nursing school up at St. Scholastica, and there was a talk about, getting funding involved to having people on site. And I imagine in like white lab coats with clipboards and actually doing that field work on site in a sauna environment. And then, as you said, well, as we know, COVID came around. And actually, I think, as I remember, Colin, I think things sort of sat on the shelf for a little while, as pretty much everybody's life was or is. And then there was kind of an aha moment. A light bulb went off, and I won't even use the word pivot. I would say to tune maybe phase one of the SRI study to be 100% volunteer / survey based. Did I summarize that fair?
Yeah. I think the slight alteration in plan, I think, was a part of what I see as a whole series of studies, right? This was
Mhm.
just one branch of
Mhm.
a whole bunch of different things coming from this sauna research tree. Yeah, this more survey approach that we have with this study that we're currently conducting, I think had always kind of been something that we had considered, but from a research standpoint, a much cleaner way to do it, yeah, is to have people on site, and we get to have them
Right.
complete a questionnaire, then take a sauna, then complete a questionnaire, and then we have a control group that isn't doing any sauna, but we're still tracking
Mhm.
their reported mental health. So yeah, I mean, fingers crossed that that's something we can do in the future, because I have a whole host of students that work in my research lab that, which is also a driving part of what I'm into, is fostering science for emerging scholars too. So with undergrads in my lab, they're asking a ton of questions that we just don't have time to get to, like how can athletes use sauna? So we know that collegiate athletes are stressed and are going through
Mhm.
the juggling of academics and their
Right.
sports schedules. Is this a cool tool that we can use to actually help them focus
Mhm.
better on their studies, or manage and
Mhm.
negotiate
Mhm.
some of the psychological things that they might be dealing with? So
Yep.
my undergrad researchers, I do have to give them a shout out, because they're certainly major drivers in the way that we execute these projects. So they happily put focus from thinking about more of an experiment into, okay, how do we do this, broader survey? How do we track people over time?
Mhm.
They've been instrumental in setting this up,
And and
and
I,
helping execute the research.
right on to that. And knowing college students like I do, I think that maybe their sinister method here would be the first Saint Scholastical mobile sauna pre-exam tour that could be done. Like during exam week, we could the student run chill out after study before your exam project.
I mean, a lot of folks in college campuses during finals week are bringing in like therapy animals, like therapy dogs, that are an important part that we know from psychological research on benefiting well-being, at least momentarily. Well, I don't see any reason why sauna can't be a part of that conversation too, right?
Lovely.
So yeah, I another tool in the tool bag. That's the goal
Yes.
here, right?
Yes, I think that would be great. I mean, I remember when I was in college, I don't know how I de-stressed during exam week, but knowing what I know today, 1.5, 2 hour sauna session, I actually in jumping into the shores of Lake Superior, I think would really set me right. It would help
Yeah.
me retain some knowledge, that's for sure.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Oh, that's fabulous stuff, Colin. So what I think is so significant here. Well, first of all, before I forget, can you tell listeners where to respond? Those listening that may want to be part of or participate in the mental health research study. Can you help us get your pen out, folks listening?
Yeah.
What's the plan of action here?
Yeah, happily. So we are still actively recruiting participants for this longitudinal kind of over 4 weeks survey. So folks are interested. We have a recruitment email, saunastudy@gmail.com, that folks can access. And also through the SRI website, we have a call for research as well that talks a little more in detail about the goals of the research, and it has that email address. And myself and my research team will get back to you. So yeah, we're looking for folks that maybe are new to sauna and have recently built a sauna, but also in the spirit of just understanding the full sauna experience. If you've been doing this for decades, we're also interested in your responses too.
Fabulous. So that would be Sauna Study, SAUNASTUDY @gmail, correct?
Correct. Yep. Saunastudy@gmail.com.
Yep. And those interested in going to view more about the Sauna Research Institute, they can just go to saunaresearchinstitute.com or saunastudies.com and click around from there, right? I think it's in the news drop down, maybe, the more information about the study.
Yep. There's a link there that has more info that you can access right from that homepage.
Yes. So I know you're a busy guy, and we appreciate. I got a few follow-up questions, but one I'd like to springboard with. You mentioned about the research tree, and I like that metaphor where we're just exploring one branch of a larger branch of mental health as it relates to sauna. And this is your lane. This is your branch of knowledge, interest, expertise. And I see the branch spinning off into more, here's a survey-based study that will immediately have an opportunity to lead into what you say experiential work with white lab coats and clipboards on site. Did I get that right?
The more experimental side of having more control over the study is certainly a part of that tree. They're all things that I think we need to study, and it's the multi-pronged approach that we can have. So I love considering things from multiple angles, experiments, longitudinal survey studies. I love multiple methods.
So in spirit of that, if time and money were no constraints, or you had an abundance of both, what would you need? Like what? I'm just sending this intention out, to those listening, or what have you. So say phase one, the survey-based studies completed, and there are some data points learned, garnered. The Corona thing, God love it. It's going to be behind us here. The herd immunity is going to happen. We're going to all be inoculated, and we're going to get through all this. So if there were no constraints to you, do you have a vision of or a wish list of what you would need, either money, resources, time, staff? Does anything come to mind you'd like to share? Because I know you're in development of these other branches.
Yeah, we're certainly on the on the development side of what we would need. Having a location where we could be running an experiment with a sauna. So having like a small sauna. We have some great connections in the community, but also having something on site in Duluth, say like on the St. Scholastica campus, would be a really cool research opportunity. So funding in that sense would be great. Thinking more about like the specific groups that we can target and reach out to would be important too. Like we can talk about this as a very general process for people, but what about individuals that are like specifically seeking therapy for depression right now? Like, can this actually be like a therapeutic tool in some way? So collaborating with clinical and counseling psychologists that are interested in that angle, collaborating with our colleagues that do work on some of the biomarker type stuff. So can we actually track some things where, someone says, hey, I'm reporting after sauna that I have so much more energy. Can we actually track, like, neurotransmitters and other important things that biologically we know can facilitate that happiness. So can we actually better understand this link with all of the different cool things that are happening together at the same time? More work on that. I'm also interested too in using this as a tool for understanding and decreasing health disparities. Much of the work that I do within kind of some health psychology realms is understanding ways that we can help stigmatized groups get better healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Is sauna something that fits into that? So how can we reach groups that maybe don't typically benefit from health initiatives? What ways can sauna be a part of that process too, in a destigmatized setting, right? You don't have to go see a doctor in this like a like go to the hospital to have an appointment with a doctor or something. Like, is there a way that this can be kind of incorporated within how we understand health and psychology more broadly too? So there's a ton of angles that I would love to pursue with this. And yeah, that's all growing out of the same tree, right? Of not just us and our collaborators, but folks around the world that are also doing this work. It's all kind of feeding into one another, which is why more data and more research and sharing it either in settings like this or in academic papers and presentations, and just getting the data out there so we can have a better understanding of this is certainly always my goal. Number one as a scientist is the communication side of it.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
Oh, so well said. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. On that note, uh, um, is there one area of where people are suffering either depression, anxiety? Is there one demographic? I guess maybe that would be the right word. Is there a demographic? Is there one area that is of interest to you, like where you would like to advance toward research? I don't know. Is it PTSD or alcohol, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Is there one area that rings for you as a starting point?
Yeah, I do have some colleagues that work in the realm of PTSD, and some colleagues that work with veterans. I think that would be such a cool group to work with, and
Mm-hmm.
and add a tool to the toolbox that they
Mm-hmm.
can use in supplement to all of the other important work that's being done, to have some better psychological outcomes. So there's
Right.
certainly groups like that I would be interested in, that I personally don't have experience working with, but yeah, talking to other researchers that do work with some of those groups, I would love
Yeah.
to. And,
And
and at a time of COVID too, like folks that are suffering from unemployment,
mhm.
there's a whole host of things, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's, at least in my kind of own personal view, part of the issue that we might have is that sauna isn't as accessible to a lot of people, right? Like if you're investing in something in like for your home, presumably that takes some time, energy, effort, and some monetary resources, right? So what are the groups that maybe don't have access to these things that we can reach out to? Um, those are just a few that come off the top of my head, but in thinking kind of future focus about what this means, if there was broader resources, at least in the United States, nationwide, um, I think that would be fantastic. Finland is on my list of, top of my list of countries to visit, and I know in your visit, you probably couldn't walk a couple blocks without feeling like there was some sort of like a sauna collective or group of people, or some sort of sauna house for
Right.
people.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that the Finland has been acknowledged as the world's happiest country for, I think, the third year in a row. So causation, correlation, I think it's up to
I'm not.
Dr. Colin Zestcott to decide. But
Yeah,
I
I
tell
don't
you,
say correlation.
huh?
Correlation does not mean causation, but there might be something to that one. I will argue that there might be something to that one.
Well, I feel it in my bones. A guy came over to my backyard sauna to pick up a heat shield yesterday, and we got to visiting, and he was speaking about how building his own sauna in the time of Corona has drastically improved his anxiety levels, which he suffers from within his family, his lineage and stuff, his parents and brothers, sisters, and he's not on any medication at all. The sauna has just been an incredible calming antidote to anxiety for him. And I'm like, yeah, man, I hear you, and I sometimes forget that. I mean, I just feel so grateful and appreciative of being able to walk 20 steps out my backyard and having my health and wellness retreat. And so sometimes I have, I have to kind of put things in context a little more, that there are many that are just scratching the surface and becoming a little bit aware of this health practice, physical and mental, that you referenced. So yeah, and one more on the PTS element to it is I'm right with you on that. The Native American Sweatlodge experience has been very helpful for a lot of vets, a lot of folks suffering from PTS, and one of the elements to it is this ability to be together, like as a group, and they go into the hot room together, and they literally, shedding their emotions or feelings together in a group setting, as a small group, and just going through that together, and just realizing that they're not alone, and they're able to share their experiences and open up a little bit. I don't have to share that.
Glenn, you're making me take out the research notebook here.
Good.
How interesting would it be if we understood more about like the community factor inside of the sauna? So right now, at least like in the way that we might think about it in just a basic experiment, would be, okay, you take a sauna and then you leave and we have you complete surveys. I've always envisioned that just as one person having that experience. But there's that community factor, right? Like when everyone's on the bench together having great conversation, and the community that gets involved.
Yeah.
What about the number of people?
There's the Warrior Surf Foundation, which that borrows from the same thing, where veterans are going through an experience together. It's hard nature. They're out in the ocean, and they're tackling these waves, and there's a bond and a kinship involved. And again, what I love about Sauna Talk is this spontaneous connections. Dr. Stephen Colmont, who I will introduce you to, has I think he wrote his PhD thesis on the American Sweatlodge experience. Cool. And he has a very keen interest, and I know you and he will really enjoy speaking together. And this is the Sauna Research Institute. I mean, live and direct. It was it was a budding concept with my visit with Dr. Jari Laukkanen, the idea of global collaborative research, and something that we kind of feel in our bones is good for us. And that's great. But the ability to bring it into a more formal, like this is why, is kind of the objective, I think. So, yeah.
Well, and I think that speaks to just like how I see the world too, is people functioning and doing things, but I also see it through numbers too. And so to have someone's experience in a qualitative way is so important, but to be able to quantify that too, and see statistically, are there things that are happening that are noteworthy. I love opportunities to that. So I'm grateful for you and the Sauna Research Institute for promoting collaboration like this, and having folks, I mean, like worldwide, thinking about these things together is such a cool and unique opportunity. And I know, to be a part of that in some small way is definitely something I'm thankful for, and is super cool, and something that keeps me up at night in a really good way, thinking about in all the different possibilities.
Yeah, man. Well, the feeling is mutual. We're so grateful to have you on board. This branch of the tree of the mental health benefits of sauna, and digging into that. We've talked about many branches off of that, and this is the beginning, as you referenced. So any other final words about the study specifically? And let's say one more time how people can contact you specifically and this study. Can you give it to us again?
Yep. Yeah. Best way would be to send us a direct email, and we'll reach out to you with more information at saunastudy@gmail.com. So SAUNASTUDY @gmail.com. It's probably the easiest way to get in touch with us.
Super. Good. Hey, so let's talk a couple quick fun things and we'll wrap it up. So mobile sauna, if you could have one and bring it anywhere in the world, what's the first place that comes to mind, Colin, where you would love to, and you don't need a white lab coat and a clipboard. This is just for your own R&R. Where would you, what's the first spot that comes to mind?
Would it be bad to say my driveway? Because I would, I would love to have one at home. I am not fortunate enough to have one at home. No, I'm gonna go with a winter in Tucson, Arizona, where I did my my doctorate work. Up in the Catalina foothill mountains, there's a very cool town at the top that does get snow in the wintertime, Winter Haven. I would want nothing more than to spend one of my winter days in Tucson, up in Winter Haven.
Beautiful. And you could probably get a couple snow angels in.
That would be the cool. Yeah, that would be my my cold plunge. Right, would be right into a small snowbank.
So say you were there and you could sauna with anybody in the world, anybody, like dead, alive, past, present. Who's the first person to come to mind that you would like to sit on the sauna bench with?
Yeah, first one that comes to mind is probably my late grandfather. So maybe not necessarily a famous person, but someone that passed away when I was around 11 or 12 years old. And he was a very academic man. And I think he would have a lot to say about the world, and have some great insights. And I would love to pick his brain about anything from politics to his life growing up in Latvia around World War II. There's a whole host of things that I would love to ask him about and have a deeper, richer conversation with. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And now I know one of the reasons why you've gravitated towards sauna like you have. I didn't know until this chat that you have Latvian ancestry, and sauna in Latvia is very popular.
Everyone on my mother's side.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Fabulous. So as someone who graduated from what we call like the health club sauna with no water on the rocks to really deep, enriching, good sauna with great lampa and the wood fired and all that. For those like that may be, if you were to bump into somebody kind of unfamiliar with sauna, what do you think is most misunderstood about sauna? Those not so familiar that you would like to share or tell them about?
It's not a competition. I think in how I had always thought about it was, I'm going to stay in the longest, and that's somehow some merit of my abilities as a human. I think it's a very personalized experience in terms of temperature and time and what if you're having cold rounds, like what does that mean for you? Is it water? Is it snow? Is it drinking something? Is it just kind of sitting and relaxing? I think it's a very personalized experience. So I guess in the way that I think about it now is definitely divorced from this idea of, I have something to prove by staying in the longest or whatever it might be. So I would tell my younger self that, and certainly other folks that are new to it, is that it's a growing experience, right? Some days, sometimes I know my wife and I recently sauned here in Duluth, and she at the time was around 34, 35 weeks pregnant. She's now at 39 weeks, but so it was a much cooler temperature with shorter rounds, just because that's what she was comfortable with. So I think treating each one differently is something that I would love to do, or tell my younger self.
Right. Good. No clock, no rules, no structure.
Sounds like a good way to live your life too, right?
Yeah, man, I love that. Hey, last one for you that I could think of. And is there anything else you want to share before I ask you a final question? Any other thoughts, ideas? We've given the email address a couple of times. I'll put it in the show notes. One of the, and I don't want to speak for you, but the more participants in this survey-based study, the better the data, and that's an obvious thing. Any other final words from your side? I got one more question, but go ahead.
Yeah. Just like in thinking about the research, really, I've had some emails from people that have expressed maybe some trepidation about participating because they only sauna once a week. More data, as you mentioned, is good data. Not to like punt on your question, but just to reiterate, like, yeah, really, kind of a final thought that I have in terms of the research side of things is the more data that we have just gives us a better understanding of the rich uniqueness of experiences that people are having. So, and also keeping in mind too, again, that this is, one avenue by which we can ask some of these questions about sauna and psych benefits, and we have a lot more questions that we want to ask.
Beautiful. Thanks for being with us. Say it's a sauna day for you. You wake up and you're going to sauna, and from going to sauna, stepping in, sitting on the bench, first round, the first cool down, maybe the first Lake Superior cold plunge or dunk over your head.
I still haven't done a Lake Superior plunge.
Well, now there's an intention, brother.
This summer.
We're going to celebrate the results of phase one of your work by jumping off the rocks together into the world's largest freshwater lake. Yep. I'll set that intention with you now.
Perfect.
But and then your sauna's over for that day, and you go home and you mention a nice meal, and then maybe tucking yourself into bed at night. If you had to distill that whole sauna experience from the thinking to the doing to the post and all that, is there a moment, and what moment would stick out as your favorite through a sauna session?
That first moment where you start to break a sweat. Like for me, I'm a very heavy sweater, but I feel my body just get like really hot. And then once the sweat breaks, like let's say I'm sitting on the bench and my head's down and I just start to feel this drip, usually through my beard, but it's dripping down. That might sound kind of weird, but that experience of like, something is happening to my body and I can see what's happening to my body, and that feeling that I have, I think that's my favorite. 'Cause then I know that I almost get this sense of relaxation just from like, and now the process has started, right? Now we're into it. I'm going to sweat. I'm going to really enjoy whatever this cold plunge looks like for me. And that's just, hopefully the beginning of a great couple rounds.
Thank you. Appreciate your time today, Dr. Colin Zestcott, undertaking a mental survey-based health study for the Sauna Research Institute. Final word, take us out. That was a beautiful end right there. Yeah, if you want to end with that.
Well, I'll end with thanking you, Glenn. Thanks for giving me some space and time here to talk to folks. And then also a thank you again to SRI and other folks that are really putting some time and energy and resources and effort into understanding some important work, not only in the stuff that I'm focused on, but other work and future studies too. I think this is a really important moment for sauna research, and I'm honored and blessed to be a small cog in that wheel on this work.
Love we have you.
Awesome. Thanks, Glenn.
Cheers.